Good evening, folks, and a very, very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us here on the Geelong Region Soccer Show. My name is Tonchi Prusak, and it's going to be my pleasure to be with you over the next hour on a forum, on a show that promotes all that is positive about our wonderful game, and you're not going to get any negative publicity or negative media reports about our wonderful sport on this show. Thank you for joining us again. It is episode 161 in total, our 11th episode for this season. Cannot believe that we're already getting close to the halfway mark of the season. And yes, there's a lot in store over the next 60 or so minutes. And including, we're going to have some post-match, we're going to have some match highlights of two huge games that were played over the weekend. And I had the absolute pleasure of attending both those games. The North Geelong versus Essendon Royals game at Alco Park. The North Geelong Warriors defeated the top side in VPL 2 action. After the match, I caught up with two-goal hero LOCHIE McGRATH upon his return to Alco Park. And it was a rather emotional game for young LOCHIE, and we'll find out a little bit later on. Also then travelled over to the Bell Park Sports Club, and it was great to see a lot of people, including Chloe and Josh from Just Turfing, one of our major business advertisers, who were there on the night as well. What a game that was. 4-4, State League 4 football at its absolute best. And after the game, I caught up with Oliver DIGIANDOMENICO, the acting captain for Bell Park. In addition to that, we're going to be catching up with Football Victoria historian Tony Persoglia. He'll be talking to us about the CES Early Plate that Football Victoria has created as a Men's State League Cup fixture or cup, and we'll find out about who CES Early was. He was an absolute legend in Geelong over in the 1970s and parts of the 1980s as well. And last but certainly not least, we'll be catching up with ADRIAN LEIJER, who's the director, head coach of Coerver Coaching Geelong, another one of our fantastic business advertising sponsors. And he'll be also talking about Coerver's recent trip to Singapore, and also the departure of one of Geelong's best junior coaches, Ash Dafter. But on the flip side, he'll also look at the possibilities or the opportunities that it's opened up for budding coaches in the Geelong area. That, folks, and a whole lot more on tonight's episode of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. We'll be right back after this message from our major sponsor, The Gordon, and major season sponsor. And then straight after that, it's time for the news desk. Don't go away, folks. You are tuning into the Geelong Region Soccer Show.
Your future is in your hands. There is a whole world waiting for you, and your choices determine how you will impact it. At The Gordon, we recognise this. That's why we champion hands-on learning. Get your hands dirty. Grab what's in front of you. Learn by doing. Turn your passion, your ideas, and mould them into your creations. You'll be supported the entire way. You'll grow your skills in small classes, guided by teachers who are industry experts. You'll learn in state-of-the-art facilities or out in a real-world workplace setting. Your hands-on experience will increase your understanding and put you ahead of your university peers. You'll graduate work ready, and you'll graduate sooner, with a huge range of qualifications to choose from and support services to enable your success. Now is the time to continue your learning journey. At the Gordon, your future is in your hands.
Time now for the news desk here at the Geelong Region Soccer Show. First of all, let's turn our attention to the Victorian Premier League 2 division and the Victorian Premier League women's competition on the weekend. A mixed bag of results indeed for the Geelong clubs. North Geelong Warriors hosted the Essendon Royals, who were the top team heading into this fixture. And 2 goals by LOCHIE McGRATH gave the Warriors a vital win over the Essendon Royals, and that, as a result, sees the Warriors jump up to, I think it's equal second spot now on the competition standings. Geelong travelled to bottom side Pascoe Vale and were able to come away only with a draw. In fact, as a come-from-behind draw, Bruno Gervasoni scoring the equaliser for Geelong Soccer Club. In the Women's Premier League, or the Victorian Premier League Women's Competition, round 11, Geelong Galaxy lost to Bundoora United 1 goal to 4. Beth Coppe scoring the goal there for the Galaxy. I was out at Alco Park on Saturday night and managed to catch some of the action, and including an after-match catch-up with LOCHIE McGRATH in the dressing rooms. Here are the highlights.
We got the man of the match here, LOCHIE McGRATH, straight after the game. Mate, what a comeback, you know, like, all right, how long have you been back now, since you've come back?
Well, it's been 2 weeks, I think, so yeah, just good to be back. It's very good to be back. The boys did all the hard work, really. I just come on last 15 and had to go, so they did the hard work. They loosened them up for me, and I was lucky enough to get on the end of a great assist.
Yeah.
And then
enough of you. Let's talk about that team. What an effort that was. The top team. You've extended the winning streak now to 6 games, and obviously your 2 goals. But it must be the atmosphere at the moment in the dressing room must be pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's very good to be here too. Listen to it. It's sensational. We love this. The energy's high. We're pretty lucky to be in this club, and I love it. So that game's for my late grandpa had his funeral yesterday, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
My condolences, but
and that was the action there from Elco Park on Saturday night. And look, on behalf of everyone here at the Geelong Region Soccer Show, and indeed I can probably say on the Geelong football community, our condolences to the McGrath family, not just Lockie, obviously from North Geelong, but Tristan from Lara as well, on the passing of their grandfather, Edward Ted Cunningham, who was buried on Friday. And his grandson fronted up the following day to score 2 goals, 2 match-winning goals. Pretty incredible stuff, that's for sure. Let's turn around now. Fixtures for the Victorian Premier League happening. So this weekend, there's only action in the men's competition, the VPL2. The VPLW, they'll take a week's break over the long weekend. The Monarchs, the Queen's birthday, King's birthday, whatever you want to call it, for a catch-up round, basically. And also there will be Nike FC Cup games being played. But as far as the men are concerned, round 17 fixtures happening this weekend. Goulburn Valley, who are in 6th position, they'll be hosting the North Geelong Warriors in 2nd. A danger game for the Warriors, because every time they've gone on the road to John McEwen Reserve in Shepparton, it's always been a tough game. So it's a long weekend. If you're not doing anything and you're a Warriors fan, do travel up the highway to Shepparton, maybe even stay the night, stay the weekend. But that game kicks off at 6 p.m. Geelong Soccer Club, they'll be hosting Springvale White Eagles, so 7th versus 5th. Very important game for Geelong. They really, really need to record a win here. They've dropped some crucial points in recent games, and most notably that dropping 2 points against the bottom side, Pascoe Vale, last Saturday. So this game kicks off at 6 p.m. at Stead Park under lights. So very, very important game that. Do get along, if you are in Geelong, do get along to Stead Park and take in that game for Geelong. Okay, on to State League. We had some, once again, mixed bag of results, and we'll go through these results, through these scores. Westside Olympic defeated Coerver 4-1. Once again, Owen Shepherd, he's been getting amongst the goals. He was the only goal scorer for Coerver. Geelong Rangers drew to Craigieburn City 0-0. Epping City inflicted a defeat on Surf Coast. So things are quite serious there at Banyule Warrior Reserve. In recent weeks, they've dropped a few points and lost a couple of games as well. So a crucial game coming up this weekend, but we'll talk a bit more about that later on. Lara United, that's not a right result. The Ben Kenshall, it was a 1-1 draw, in fact, not a 6-1 result. Wish it was a 6-1 result. Ben Kenshall scoring the only goal for Barnstoneworth United, for Lara against Barnstoneworth United. Deakin Ducks went down 2-1 to Melton Phoenix. Jeremiah Jacoby scoring the only goal for the Ducks. Bowen recorded a very, very important win to get them off the bottom of the competition standings in State 4. Alejo Basilio scoring 2 and Tristan Harris 1 in the 3-2 win over Keilor Wolves. And I tell you what, if ever you wanted an entertaining game in front of a big crowd, a great atmosphere and fantastic facilities, this was the game. On Saturday night, Bell Park hosted Balmoral FC. It was a 2nd versus 1st clash. Lucas Rebagliati scoring a hat-trick to bring his season's tally to 13 goals. Mio Marinovic also getting amongst the goals, 4 goals apiece. So we've got some footage of that, and we'll show you that in a second. And also Footscray Rangers defeating, going down to Ocean Grove 3-2. David Favetta, Lachlan Mikak, and Matthew Belt scoring there for Ocean Grove. But we got some highlights of the game up at Bell Park Sports Club on Saturday, and afterwards our cameras caught up with the acting captain of Bell Park Soccer Club, Oliver DiGiandomenico. Oliver DIGIANDOMENICO, the acting captain today. Mate, what a game. 4-4. What a thriller. How did you see the game? You had the best view in the house.
Oh, just up and down all game, it's just, sometimes scrappy football, it's just the way it is, so, yeah, what could you do? We got the draw, still unbeaten, and I guess we'll take that in the long run. It's very, very important.
Now, let's be honest, was it 1 point gained or 2 points lost, in your opinion?
Probably, against a squad like that, it's probably 1 point gained. It definitely comes in clutch later in the year, especially because they've got a loss, and we've still, we've got the unbeaten run, which is, I think, at the end of the day, more important than anything. So, I think we just got to get back on Tuesday on the track, and yeah, we got to Point Cook, another big game. Yeah, so.
What's going to be the focus at training this week? Scored 4 goals. The attack's doing absolutely fantastic, but the defence seems to be leaking a little bit.
Yeah,
is that a bit of a concern?
Yeah, it's sort of leaking through our right and left back. I know a couple of times this game on the right back, we got a little bit caught out with the overload. So I think that needs to be worked on, especially a bit of talking. So yeah, I think a bit of communication comes in key with some of that stuff. Yeah.
On the flip side, at the other end of the park, Luca and Mio, what a combination they're proving to be. But the acquisition of Luca, who's now scored 12 goals in 6 games, that must be a massive, massive boost for the boys.
100%. Him coming in, it's just massive booster, massive, just everything. It's just unbelievable. You can't fault his game. It's just when you got a 6'7" striker in State 4, it just comes in clutch always.
What about yourself? Your own game, obviously, like you said, team's unbeaten, so doing very, very well. It must be thrilling at the moment, just like where you guys are compared to where Bell Park's been the last few years.
Yeah, for sure. It's been 20 plus years since we've been at this type of how can I say, type of
position
in the ladder. Yeah, for sure. It's been a long time, and I think it's very important we just keep staying complacent. No, not being complacent, I should say. Sorry. I think that's a really big word with us, especially complacency. Yeah, it's just we've got to stay focused through every game.
And next week, as you said, Point Cook. The focus now switches to Point Cook. What are you expecting from that game?
Of course, 3 points always, but it's always going to be a tough time on the track, especially against a team like that. Newly promoted, newly relegated, so they're not going to want to come out and take it easy on us. So yeah.
It's certainly worth getting out and about. And I'll tell you what, Saturday night football under lights, you rug up and it's absolutely fantastic. And some beautiful, beautiful people in our footballing community that you get to a chance to mingle and run into. And it's absolutely fantastic. Even got to see a former junior coach of mine who these days is not living in Geelong, but it was great to see him come back to Geelong as well. Okay, let's turn our attention now to the fixtures of the Men's State League competition. Round 11 this weekend. Coerver have got a tough game when they travel to Keilor Park Recreation Reserve when they take on the top team, Keilor Park, in State League 1 action. Up at Myers Reserve, Geelong Rangers have got an equally tough game when they host third-placed Whittlesea Rangers. That's going to be a difficult assignment, but nonetheless, the Rangers at home, well, they can do anything, and we certainly hope they can pull off a bit of an upset and at least grab 1 point, but ideally 3. That game kicks off at 3 p.m. at Myers Reserve. A big game for Surf Coast to travel to third-placed Heidelberg Eagles. That game in Melbourne at James Reserve with the unusual time of 3:15 p.m. But Surf Coast are currently at the moment 4 points ahead of Heidelberg Eagles. A win here will extend that lead to a comfortable 7-point buffer. In State League 4, well, we've got 3 home games and 1 derby. Well, Deakin Ducks hosting Keilor Wolves 7th versus 8th. That's at Deakin University at 3 p.m. Then at 5:15, Barwon hosts Lara United. The battle of the Cellar Dwellers, 11th versus 12th. You talk about 6-pointers, 6-pointer games. This is it. This game at Grovedale Reserve is crucial to both teams. So that game kicking off at 5:15. And then Bell Park at home again on this Saturday night. And another important game when they take on 4th place Point Cook. We heard young Oliver there say it's going to be a tough game, But if they can get a good crowd up there at Bell Park Sports Club, mind you, the facilities up there are second to none. Fantastic undercover seating. The club rooms are absolutely phenomenal, and they've got great lights as well. So it's certainly a good night out of football wherever you go on this long weekend, this Monarchs long weekend coming up. And last but not least, Ocean Grove in State 5, they will also be at home. And guess what? They've got a tough game as well when they host their competition frontrunners, Newport Storm, who are currently in top position. And that game at Shell Road Reserve kicking off at 3 p.m. In Women's State League action, Women's State League 1, the North Geelong Warriors defeated Craigieburn City 6-3. Namiki Yamamoto bagging a hat-trick, Zoe Stosic getting 2, and Tihana Juric getting 1. That was round 6 result. And round 7 this Sunday, North Geelong travelled to 10th placed Faulkner, bottom side. And that game at CB Smith Reserve kicking off at 2 p.m. Now, this Thursday, Nike FC Cup action, round 5, in fact, sees this our Geelong Galaxy travelling to the Bayside Argonauts. That game at Shipston Reserve kicking off at 7:45 p.m. on Thursday night. Good luck to the Galaxy, the only team left in the Nike FC Cup. We had the Country Championships jersey presentation was held this last weekend, and that was we saw some faces there. Anthony Aiken on the left, Eddie Contel on the right, and Mike McKinstry in the middle. Aiken and Contel, the city councillors, and Mike McKinstry, of course, the chairman of the Geelong Region Football Committee. And it was fantastic to see a whole heap of youngsters, up-and-coming youngsters, and their coaches being presented with their kits. These photos, courtesy of Councillor Anthony Aiken, who does a fantastic job of promoting our sport, promoting our local football community. So if Anthony's tuning in, well done to Anthony, and thank you for doing all the promotion that you do. I did also notice on Eddie Contel's social media platforms, he also had some photos from the jersey presentation. Now it's up to the rest of us to do the same thing and promote our sport as well as some of these people do for us as well. Now we are sometimes we do criticise our own football community and within our own football community, but get out and about as a neutral to a lot of these games, and you'll just see what a fantastic football community we do have. And from time to time, we do have examples of what a great football community we do have here in Geelong. And the two organisations that have really pushed some worthy causes this week, well, let's go through some of them. The North Geelong Warriors, they put up a post, join us to raise funds for the CT Foundation, who has supported one of the juniors, Alexandra Luburic, on her journey to overcome the challenges of neurofibromatosis. There's a charity gig coming up at the North Geelong Warriors club rooms. That's this Sunday, in fact, 8th of June from 12 p.m. in the Alco Park Hall. $30 per adult, $15 per child for 12 and under, and it includes a 3-course meal. Drinks are at bar prices. And there's a phone number there on the screen. Anyone can contact Penny Mockus, 0499 447 0005, or you can directly mail Maria Luburic or Susie Aspasia. And for those of you, I'm sure a lot of you do know Ivan Luburic. You've either played against him, you played with him, and I think the man is responsible for being involved in about 1,000 community local league games, and he still continues to do so. A worthy cause indeed. The Geelong Masters, or the Masters Summer League, on one of their posts also put up a post about supporting the mental well-being of its community of players and families. In this respect, amongst the hardest challenges a person will face is the illness of a child. Because of that, we're sharing this GoFundMe page or GoFundMe appeal to support a family from our own community. Adrian Bond, who was on this show early this year, who is now the general manager of Futsal Geelong, his young son Huxley's doing a spectacular job of fighting leukemia. However, maintaining this does come at a cost. And the boys from the Masters Summer League and the ladies from the Masters Summer League urging the Geelong football community to jump on this GoFundMe page. And there's the link. And we'll pop up another graphic, if you like, with the following link, https GoFundMe.me/D0108FD6. Now we'll leave that on there on the screen for a little while longer, but also you can always go back and pause and get that address. But on March the 6th, the world changed for young Huxley Bond and his family, as you can read there. What started as a persistent cough quickly turned into a devastating diagnosis. I'm not going to try to attempt to pronounce that leukemia. But the doctors found a leukemia throughout his body, along with a mass pressing on his lungs and heart. He began chemotherapy immediately and now faces an intense 2 to 2.5 year treatment plan. And so we do urge people who are able to donate something to go to those respective pages, appeals, and support those people. Like I said, we've got a wonderful community. And from time to time, we do need to take stock, and just be grateful for the close-knit football community we have in Geelong. Okay, folks, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, it's time for our next guest, and he's the Football Victoria historian, the official historian at Football Victoria, Tony PERSOGLIA. He'll be talking about the Cess Early Plate, named after a local legend, Cecil Early, who played in the 70s and 80s for a variety of clubs, Corio, Geelong Rangers, or Hamlin Rangers as they were known then, Bell Park, and Geelong as well. He'll talk to us all about that and the importance for clubs to maintain good historical documents. Don't go away, folks. It's the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Just Turfing Instant Turf is a local, family-owned and operated company which guarantees top-quality products and service. Whether you need turf for a small front garden or a large landscaping project, Just Turfing Instant Turf are the turf installer experts you can trust. They supply and install for most major landscapers in Melbourne and Geelong, with a wide range of premium instant turf and a full suite of turf care products. Chloe and the team at Just Turfing are sure to have all your turf needs covered. Their Melbourne, Geelong and Victorian regional distribution means they can supply your area with fresh cut turf installed the same day, hassle-free. Turf options that are available include Eureka Kikuyu, Santa Ana, Tiff Tuff, Sir Walter Buffalo and Sir Grange. For more information, contact either Chloe on 0431 571 558 or Josh on 0457 174 111. And welcome back to the Geelong Region Soccer Show. It's time now for our very first guest for tonight. And we've had this gentleman on before, and he's got what I consider one of the most important jobs in football administration. And that's basically being responsible for the history, collecting the history and everything that happened in our rich game and the rich history of our game, which spans a long, long time. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome back to the Geelong Region Soccer Show the official football historian at Football Victoria, Tony PERSOGLIA. Tony, how are you?
I'm well, Tonchi. It's wonderful to be here with you on this program tonight.
Yeah, now the reason we've called you to come on this show is, of course, we love chatting to you and we love chatting about history. But last week we mentioned, and the Football Victoria has come up with a new competition. Some are saying, well, haven't we got enough competitions? But this is an absolute doozy. I think this is an absolute fantastic concept. It's called the Cess Early Plate, not the Shield. That was last week. But it's basically the final 8 clubs or final 8 men's state league clubs that make it through to the Doherty Cup each year. Tell us a bit more about the Cess Early Plate.
Well, the Cess Early Plate, and I guess it's interesting going back to the career of Cess Early, and I think many in Geelong will know the name. Seth was originally from Belfast, and he came out here, I think, in 1961. He originally played at Coburg United, and was here until I think about, it might have been 64, 65, went back home, and then after he married, I guess him and his wife were keen to settle, and they came back out, and he was back at Coburg, and then eventually poached by, I think it was the original Geelong club, back in the late 60s, early 70s, and he essentially never left the region. He played at a number of clubs, Bell Park, Hamlin Rangers as they were back then, and Coerver as well. So I think upwards of 6 decades he essentially played football in Victoria until his passing in 2020. I think he passed away in April 2020. Due to the dreaded illness, I think many people who've worked in the football industry, there's a lot of people that have passed away with dementia. So that's a whole nother story in itself. But
it is, unfortunately, it is, yeah.
But Seth earlier, I guess the reason we named this trophy, and it is interesting that, for want of a better term, it's the, I guess, the rebirth of the old State League Cup. And
yes,
I think a lot of our clubs, and particularly the clubs in the Geelong region, would recall, the days of the old Provisional League Cups and State League Cups. And Seth Early played in the inaugural Federation Cup. And not many people might remember that, unless they were playing in the 80s, they might recall the old Federation Cup. But the Federation Cup made its inauguration in 1962. It was when the Victorian Soccer Federation was formed. It sort of rose out of the ashes of the old amateur body, and one of the first competitions they commissioned was the Federation Cup, which was essentially sort of an adjunct to the Doherty Cup. The Doherty Cup at the time was essentially the old Victorian State League clubs and the two highest placed finishers in the old Victorian Metro League. So there were no other teams playing in the Doherty Cup. So the Federation Cup was really, I guess, an avenue for those lesser teams, the teams that weren't playing in the top flight, to have a chance at winning another trophy in addition to their respective league competitions that they were competing in. And Seth played for Coburg United in the final of that very first Federation Cup. They played Sunshine City, which was one of the founder clubs to the club that we know as Caroline Springs George Cross. Sunshine City were that one part of the club which amalgamated with George Cross, I think, back in 1978 to form what is now Sunshine George Cross, or Caroline Springs as it's known now. They played in that first final. It was a draw. And of course, back in the day, cup finals, they had a replay. And in that second final, Coburg won 3-2, and Seth Early scored a hat-trick to essentially claim that trophy for Coburg United. So we kind of see the parallels between the Federation Cup and what is now this plate, which celebrates those State League clubs who, clearly in the modern day, where professionalism and the NPL and the VPL, the top three tiers, we're looking at rewarding those clubs outside of the semi-professional tier and giving them an opportunity essentially to win a cup competition. So in its first, I guess, edition in 2025, we've taken the best performing 8 clubs, and Clifton Hill getting essentially the benefit of a home game, given that they were in the most previous round, I think the round of 16. So those 8 clubs are now drawn in this quarterfinal stage, and 2 of them will be lucky enough to play in the final as a curtain raiser to the Doherty Cup and a chance to win the inaugural Seth Early plate.
Well, there you go. There we've got the fixtures for the quarterfinals. Mill Park taking on FC Strathmore. That's Friday the 13th. Could be lucky for one, unlucky for the other at Partridge Street Reserve. Hampden East, Brighton taking on Banyule City the following day at Dandy Park. As you mentioned, Clifton Hill will be hosting their game against Balmoral FC, who were here on the weekend up at Bell Park. What a game that was, by the way. In order to get to this stage, they had to beat even North Geelong, which is a remarkable record. So there's a bit of a Geelong connection with Balmoral. Their team manager, Ismail Ali, a former Geelong man himself, who played at North Geelong, Corai, Cloverdale, and I think a couple of other clubs as well. And Whittlesea Rangers taking on Chisholm United. Just unfortunately, the inaugural Cess Early Cup doesn't have one Geelong team in it, but I guess Ismail Ali there for Balmoral will be flying the flag locally. But what a great concept that is. And look, I personally think it's a great concept. It allows, as you mentioned, clubs that probably otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to get very far in the Doherty Cup / Australia Cup. But here's an opportunity for them to also go for a trophy. But let's talk about the history side of it. Like, our game is so rich. We and I guess through no fault of our own, I think sometimes we forget that we just don't have the time, and we always are stretched volunteers wise. But how, in your opinion, you've seen it, you've dealt with a lot of clubs. How important is it to document each club's history and have, maybe even have a designated archives person or a history person at every club?
Look, it's probably easy for me to say it's vitally important, but sometimes I think we're in danger of forgetting more than we actually know. And it's interesting in a year. I think there are 2 clubs this year that are celebrating their 75th year anniversary. One of them's Rosebud out in the Mornington Peninsula, but one that's very familiar and probably familiar to clubs in the western suburbs and those in Geelong would be the old Polonia, which is now Western Eagles. An infamous, I guess, a famous club back in the day within that sort of post-war migration boom, and they were the powerhouse of the competition in the late 50s, early 60s. Brought out a number of great players from Europe, and I guess for a lot of the European-based clubs or the clubs that have European heritage, the history is synonymous with, I guess, that migration boom, but also how they've sort of galvanised and become entrenched in their own respective communities. We see it with, the big clubs like your South Melbourne Hellas and your Melbourne Croatias, and just what they've been able to achieve in a very short existence compared to, I guess, a lot of the clubs that we know as sort of legacy football clubs around the world. They've only been around for 60, 65 years. I think Melbourne Knights are 75 years old as well. Like, they're amazing. It's an amazing avenue to what those clubs represent in terms of the communities that they embody. And you'd be familiar with one of those clubs celebrating an anniversary this year with St Albans Dynamo, who, began life in the old industrial league, and were fortunate enough to buy out the old German club, the old St Albans, and basically have never looked back. They've been in the top 2 tiers ever since, and produced some wonderful players. Branko Chelina began his sort of footballing career out at Northcote and St Albans, and was a perennial sort of top line performer, and before he became a pretty much a national renowned coach. And I think too often we probably forget those stories. One of probably my biggest sort of tasks over the last 5 years since I've been in this role is uncovering those untold stories, but also assisting clubs where they might be engaged in this initiative themselves, but giving them sort of a guiding hand through, all right, well, what is it exactly that we're looking for? More often than not, it's, the clubs that do this well are the ones that have 1 or 2 people who keep everything and, maintain those records. But it's a very difficult task given, the amount of strain that we do put on volunteers as it is. So,
Are IT issues slowing down your business? Well, Ozcom Technology Group is your solution. A global leader in information technology services and solutions, the Ozcom Technology Group was established in 2009, and we've since grown to become one of the most distinguished IT companies nationally, with our head office right here in Geelong. From on-site IT support, cybersecurity, cloud solutions, web design and business phone systems, we provide expert IT support and services to keep your operations running smoothly. Our team of professionals believe that IT solutions can be achieved only by close collaboration with our clients. We listen to what you have to say about current needs, typical frustrations and expected outcomes. Speak to us today to learn how Ozcom Technology Group can help your IT system and put your organisation one step ahead of the competition. Drop us an email at support@ozcomtechnologygroup.com.au or call us on 1300 720 503.
So I just encourage clubs, if they are keen to explore this side, keep everything. Make sure you're doing your record keeping now, because what you're doing now, and which might seem insignificant, will be, gold for someone 10, 15, 20 years down the track. I think this year with some of the stuff we've done in the NPL, for the first time in certainly the history of the competition, we're able to now go back to the year 1976 and have complete records for every top line player that's played in that competition for essentially the last 49 seasons. So we keep digging, we're doing a lot more in the women's game as well, which is relatively young, but has also had its challenges because record keeping hasn't always been paramount. They've really been focused on just getting the sport up and running rather than, trying to look at the competitive side of things from an historical point of view. But it's a wonderful aspect of what I do is really engaging some of these clubs and ensuring that, they've at least got a starting point.
Yeah.
And as a record keeper, it's always a good starting point, but it's also pointing them into the right direction. We have a lot of our own archives out at Deakin in Burwood. There's the Les Shorick and Laurie Schwab archives out at Deakin in Geelong, and the MCC library and the State Library are just wonderful resources for those clubs who are keen to sort of dig through and find out more about their own history. And of course, there's the amateur historians out there, like your George Katsanis or your Mark Borich, who have been doing a mountain of work just digitizing a lot of things. And George in the video space, but Mark in the old newspaper and sort of document archives, which he's filling in gaps every weekend that we're trying to piece together. We still don't have honour rolls of all of our competitions that go back to 1909 when I guess the old amateur body was really first formed and the Doherty Cup was first kicked off. So who knows what more we can uncover when those archives are restored.
On the local level, you speak about amateur historians or historians at clubs. Geelong Rangers this year are celebrating their 70th anniversary, and in fact, they're going to have a very special gala ball coming up on Saturday, June the 21st, and all the information is there. They're at the Batesford Hotel, and may I say, it's a beautiful place, the Batesford Hotel, especially in summer in the beer garden. Absolutely fantastic. Email events@geelongrangersfc.com if you haven't got your tickets for that. But I know Paul Miller, past president, former journalist as well, he's heavily involved in the archive the record collecting there as well. So Geelong Rangers obviously celebrating this 70th year this year. One of, if not the oldest club in the Geelong region, certainly that is around at the moment. So happy birthday to the Rangers and everyone involved with the Geelong Rangers. And also Lindsay Falzon got in touch with me during the week, and I put him in touch with Roy Hay. He's also collecting some historical facts, figures, bits and pieces, and information about the Deakin University Soccer Club, which was the forerunner to the Deakin Ducks, which we have today. And in fact, we've got some. Roy Hay did send this photo through. Speaking of Cess Early as well, which we saw in last week's edition, the veterans team in Adelaide, circa 1990 for the Australian Masters Championships, and there's Cess Early on the left-hand side. Some very, very illustrious names there. From the top, Alf Ewens, Eddie Wood, Alfred Obrazanski, Dave King, Roy Hay as well. He's right there next to Gus Davati, the goalkeeper. Then in the front row, Cess Early, Jim Bull, Joe Shanti, Zoltan Faraga, Rex Harris, Alfredo Ormeno. I think he's related to Joe Ormeno, the CEO of the Gordon, our major sponsor. I think it's his dad. And then you've got Paul Seacon as well. So some Yeah, some illustrious names there from yesteryear, and Tony. Yeah, you've got. I mean, you've got. I reckon you've got the most interesting job of Football Victoria. Those other ones are, stressing out and what you're not with running the show, but you're actually doing something that's really interesting, looking into the history. But I think you're only part time. They need to put you on full time, I think.
Oh, look, it's a wonderful job, I must admit. I was responsible for running those competitions back in the day in my administrative days, and they do a mountain of work. And
Yeah.
I think of all the things that we do at Football Victoria, obviously getting people on the park every week is vitally important. It's what keeps us afloat and what keeps us going, and it's ostensibly what we're responsible for. But what I do is it's about telling those stories that we've forgotten. I think a recent piece where we published during Female Football Week was, the banning of girls playing football by the very organisation that preceded the Victorian Soccer Federation in 1960.
Wow.
At a time when, the liberation movement was really starting to gather pace. We think of the 60s as an era when a lot of sort of doors were being opened and walls were being torn down, but no, we as an organisation decided to ban girls from playing, and it really set women's football back 15 years. But there's some fascinating stories of young girls playing in boys' teams who were being showcased and highlighted as sort of significant in the Victorian Soccer Federation's own newspaper. But, within weeks, they decided it was all a bit too hard for them because I guess the feeling was, well, if these girls are going to continue playing, what happens when they get older? Maybe I'm really only just spitballing, but also there was clearly a stigma with football back in the day about it being, a girls' sport, or, as Johnny Warren once tagged it, Sheila's, Wogs and Poofters. So there was probably an appetite back in 1960. And for those that don't maybe recall, that era was where the game was really starting to take off. It's where those big clubs were starting to play at Olympic Park every second week, and we're drawing crowds of 25,000 to some of those games. And I guess every bit of negative publicity in their mind was probably seen as a step back, and maybe girls playing soccer was one of those things that they just couldn't handle at the time. I guess all those men in those boardrooms were probably not looking at the bigger picture, and of course it wouldn't be until another 15 years when the Victorian Women's Soccer Association would actually start. And oddly enough, it was a lot of British migrants that kicked that off. So it was almost like the game reinventing itself from sort of 60 or 70 years earlier. So, they're the stories that I love telling. And, I think from that perspective moving forward, one of the key areas I'm looking at is also regional Victoria. And obviously Football Victoria committed now to really improving the way we work in the regions. And, I know, for instance, the country championships are about to turn 50, I think, in a couple of years' time. I mean, there's a tournament that probably we as an organisation, as a metro body, haven't had that much involvement in, but it has a proud and long history, and it's been one of the proud pallbearers for all of the regional clubs and associations that have competed in it from, I think it was 1978 when it first started. So much to tell in that regard, and to really explore moving forward.
And they always say, well, the best way to improve your future is to learn from your history. And I guess that's a topic for another conversation, I think, because we as a sport have so often shot ourselves in the foot, as you mentioned, with the female movement back in the 60s and and then the ethnic question back in the 2000s, I guess, with Soccer Australia / Football Australia. But like I said, that's talk for another day. Tony, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, and look forward to having you on again on the Geelong Region Soccer Show in the future.
Thanks, Tonchi. Always great to be on.
Good on you. Tony PERSOGLIA, the football historian at Football Victoria, and he's got a great job. Folks, we're going to take a very, very short break. When we return, we're going to be speaking to one of our major business advertising sponsors, former Socceroo himself, and the current football director and owner of Coerver Coaching Geelong. We'll be speaking to ADRIAN LEIJER about Coerver's recent trip to Singapore, as well as farewell to a very dear coach who had a big impact on the Geelong region, not just at junior, but at senior level. Stay tuned for that, folks. You are watching the Geelong Region Soccer Show.
The world is yours. So work hard, and you can have whatever it is you want.
Welcome back to the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Earlier today, I caught up with ADRIAN LEIJER, who's the director and head coach of Coerver Coaching Geelong, one of our main business advertising sponsors. But mate, you've been, well, first of all, welcome back to the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Can't believe that half a year's already gone since our first episode.
Thanks, Tonchi. Yeah, it's fun. We were just chatting offline about how quickly the year has gone, and I think a lot of people are finding the same thing. But
yeah,
when you're in the thick of the soccer season and the amount of training the kids are doing and always on the park, it goes quick. But it's been good. It's been a good start to the year.
Now, since we last spoke, a lot has happened. As we can see some of the boys in the background warming up for this evening's Performance Academy. Let's talk about that, Performance Academy. Year two of since you've set the up Performance Academy. Now, I'm hearing on the grapevine down in Melbourne and what you're not, some really good things, and there are kids apparently coming up from Point Cook and what you're not. So the reputation's there. How have you seen the development of the Performance Academy in year two?
Yeah, it's been great. Look, I think the numbers have exceeded my expectations, and we changed things a little bit this year. So we do have the 2 sessions so we can accommodate for more kids, and the standard's been great.
So it's Monday night?
Monday nights at Norlane. So we're doing a 4:10 and a 5:40 session. So
Yep.
we can have access to more kids, and
Right,
more kids
excellent.
get a taste of what the Performance Academy is. And look, it's our favourite program. We love delivering the sessions. They're a little bit longer. The kids are all sort of laser focused and really keen to improve their soccer skills. And as you said, they're doing really well. We've got a very good reputation. The kids are developing really quickly, and we just love it.
Now, I do have to touch a little bit on the negative. There's still a few little clubs that are kind of a bit reluctant to accept it, but let's talk about the positives of that. Is some of these kids are going back to their clubs and doing really, really well, and we'll talk about what some of the next step that some of the kids have achieved. But it really enhances their skill level, and this can only benefit the clubs themselves.
100%. I think we touched on it before, and the thing about Coerver and what we do and what we're about is, so we're a support mechanism to the clubs. So I think as soon as the clubs realise that, and a lot have, there still are a few that haven't, which is disappointing. But once they see one or two kids who have came through the program and they go, you know what, technically they're very good. I actually got approached by one of the lead coaches at the Melbourne Victory Academy on Friday night at the Matildas game,
Mm-hmm.
and she said to me, I want to come and spend some time with you. The girls that you're sending to our programs are doing really, really well, and I can see the technical ability of them. So for me, that's where I get really immense satisfaction. I can see it, and I believe in the program so much. But when you get someone of the caliber of the girl that approached me, you go, you know what, we're doing a really good job.
Yeah, no. One of the real positives that has happened in the last few, I guess, weeks or months is the trip to Singapore. And that was a Coerver Geelong team, boys and girls, that went to Singapore. Tell us all about that. That sounds so exciting.
Yeah, it was amazing, and there's only 3 players. So as part of what we do here at the end of, or at the start of each year, there's a Asia Pacific camp which is held in Canberra. Last year we had 30 kids go up. 9 of those kids were selected to travel to Singapore. Only 3 of them took the opportunity, but I was lucky enough to take my own daughter. And young Mux and young Ruby from Geelong also, and it was a really special trip. It was, it wasn't too football heavy. There's a really nice mix of, good football training, a couple of nice little tournaments, and in terms of life experiences, going to, zoos, safari tours, Universal Studios, just spending. I just love being with my daughter for 10 days straight, and it was really nice just having that time together, and also making a lot of friends from Canberra. My daughter said to me literally on the weekend, she said, "Dad, I can't wait for January." I said, "Oh, why is that?" She's like, "Because I get to go to Canberra and see all my friends again."
There you go. Yeah.
For me, the football stuff, that's one part of it, but that side of things is more important.
Yeah. And it's something that we constantly go on about, the experiences that the kids have. If they're having a great time, everything else is going to be a positive side effect, and so it appears that that's exactly what's happening here at Coerver. Now, unfortunately, I guess last week it was announced on the Geelong Region Soccer Show, and it was posted up just hours previously to that, the sudden departure of one of Geelong's best, and I'm going to say this because he's had such a profound effect, not just on countless number of juniors in Geelong, but also a lot of seniors, most notably down at Surf Coast. Ash Dafter, he's left Coerver. What's happened there?
Yeah, it's exciting for him. I'm not surprised. I always kind of thought that, particularly where he's gone, I thought someone would sort of come for him, and it was actually Jamie Monteith, who we used to work with
another Geelong connection,
who took him up to Football Northern Territory. So from that point of view, I wasn't really surprised, because I know what Ash adds to our program, what he's done in the region. There's a reason why I approached him when I first started Coerver, and he's played a large part in what we've built. But it's a exciting opportunity for him. It's something that he chose to do with his family, and we wish him all the best. But on the flip side, for me, it's kind of, okay, now it's opened up another opportunity for two of my teams. So Ash has departed his full-time role. I've elevated Massa into a full-time role, which is very exciting for him. And then young Charlie Wrench who plays for North Geelong, and he's in terms of young up-and-coming coaches, his ability with the kids, he's first class. And so, yes, we'll miss Ash, but I'm looking at it from a real positive, going, you know what, I can give these other guys more opportunity. I can develop someone else, and I can send someone else over to Tottenham or something one day.
Yeah, well, who knows? You never. And Tottenham, speaking of Tottenham, now we're talking about Arsenal. There's that Geelong connection there as well. Aaron Dantino, a former Geelong player and coach, and obviously Kairakuni Cross. So, and that's one of the things. That's why I love talking to you. You're a real glass half full as opposed to half empty type person. You look at it so positively, and we talk about here in Geelong the development of good quality youngsters, some really good youngsters. Last week we had Tobias Servan on the show, but now we're actually approaching the whole idea of development of young coaches as well, and it's through forums like this, I guess, Coerver Coaching Geelong, that coaches can also develop their and become, I guess, career-minded coaches. Isn't that right?
Yeah, 100%. It's almost a part of my role that I enjoy. I enjoy, seeing the development in the kids, but my role particularly is developing my coaching team so they can go and do that, deliver the best possible programs that they can. And, I love that. I love seeing the young coaches. I love seeing our coaching team develop. We do a heap of development with them. And you talk about Aaron Dantino, and I did my C license with Azza.
Oh, yeah.
He was with us at Melbourne Victory. We actually did our C license under Joe Montemiro.
Who earlier today got announced as the Matildas coach. So
it was actually from our C license, Joe handpicked Aaron and said, "You become a really good coach." And they ended up at Arsenal together, and obviously Joe went on and did his own thing, and Azza stayed and won the Champions League. So they're both doing pretty well for themselves, which is good to see.
Absolutely. On that positive note, we're going to wrap this up. But once again, thank you so much to yourself and to Coerver Geelong for all your support of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. But folks out there, if you want your kid to take that next level, and if you're a coach out there who is really ambitious and wants to do things, this is the man to talk to, Coerver Coaching Geelong. Ado, all the best, mate.
Thanks, Tonch. Appreciate it.
Good on you.
Are you too busy running your own business to worry about your financials? Allow J Hill Books to focus on your books so you can focus on your core business. Based in Lara, Geelong, J Hill Books owner, operator and senior bookkeeper Judy Hill has always worked in finance administration. The world of cloud accounting, however, means that clients can be based anywhere within Australia. Currently, J Hill Books services clients from Lara, Geelong, the Bellarine Peninsula and Melbourne. You won't need to come home from working all day and start on paperwork. you can spend your time in other productive areas such as marketing or quoting, or even better, come home and switch off. You will know how your business is tracking as often as you need, whether that is on a weekly, monthly or quarterly basis. You can be satisfied that you are meeting your legal requirements to your staff and to the ATO. And deadlines will no longer be stressful for you. Let J Hill Books take the stress out of running a small business and allow you to enjoy watching your business go to the next level. For more information, visit our website at www.jhillbooks.com.au, or better yet, call us on 0402 469 243 or email us at info@jhillbooks.com.au.
And that, folks, brings us to the end of yet another episode of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Big thank you to our major sponsor, the Gordon, and also to our tonight's business advertising sponsors, our main advertising sponsors, Coerver Coaching and Just Turfing Instant Turf, and also to Ozcom Technology and J Hill Books. Your support is very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much for that. Okay, folks, we'll have a lovely week ahead. Have a great long weekend, and we hope to be with you next Monday night for a special, I guess, King's birthday, Queen's birthday, Monarch's birthday, whatever you want to call it, edition of the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Until then, good night, and thank you for being a part of tonight's show. Bye-bye.